When I call to be part of my divine plan, the field to be worked in is no longer the world, but my vineyard. Beloved brothers, let us continue to live these days of great celebration, of love and holiness, and to meditate on the life and example of the saints of God, and those who have nourished themselves of the holy fruit, the living bread that descended from heaven, and they stripped themselves of their own humanity, to live the only primary good, to be endowed with His grace by His love, working ceaselessly in the vineyard of the Lord, so that others in turn could be nourished by the tree of life and become an integral part of it. Here are the true followers of Christ, those who in life in the flesh, as St. Paul says, have lived it in the faith of the Son of God, those who have grafted themselves in the love of the Lord, the one and true vine in which alone there is life, who have decided to be part of the vineyard by giving their life to the winemaker, allowing themselves to be pruned by His love so that they could leave behind the superfluous part, which would have been of no use if not to waste one's life, to bear even more fruit, that fruit that would be used to toast on the day of the great feast, on the day of eternal victory. Here is that holy love that circulates in all the children of God, the disciples of Christ, which starts from the winemaker, who gave us the vine, love made person, who in turn gives it to the branches, which animates them, and that the closer they are to the vine and let themselves be inundated by His love, the more they bear fruit, making the vineyard grow always more. Great was the mission and action of the saints and martyrs of God, who fought against everything and everyone, who offered their lives by giving it in sacrifice, so that the vineyard could continue to prosper and reach the hands of God's people, the little remnant of Israel, those people called to fructify and prepare the vineyard for the return of the King of Kings. As Jesus said to His maiden, they wanted to destroy them all. They wanted to make the memory of the sacrifice of the Son of God disappear forever. But the more they killed, and more listened and treasured my word. Behold, in these hard and difficult times, where apostasy and idolatry is rampant, returns more relevant than ever the parable of the murderous vine dressers, those to whom the Lord had entrusted His vineyard, and who decided to appropriate it by trying to kill, in the hearts of men, the memory of the Son of God, selling out the Christian faith by watering it down with religious ideologies that lead far away from God, and therefore to eternal condemnation. However, as described in the parable, the owner of the vineyard has returned. He has descended from heaven and has entrusted His vineyard to others, to His faithful servants. And soon He will condemn the murderers of love, the murderers of salvation. From a dry branch where there is no life, never can anything be born, no fruit, and those who decide to remain anchored to that branch will inexorably find death, in that they are nourished by nothing, since in them does not circulate true life, true love, Jesus, but an ephemeral human love, and like every human thing, is destined to perish. It is the dry branch that in appearance nourishes, but in reality it nourishes itself of the life of those who remain anchored to it, until it withers away, condemning them to His own end, to be burned in the fires of the Gehenna for eternity. For the Father has taken away this branch. He severed it by cutting every bond He had with that vine, by undoing His covenant, so that He could make an eternal covenant with the children of Mary, with the followers of the teachings and commandments of Jesus, those who guard and defend the purity of the faith. Here is the New Jerusalem, where there is the vineyard of the Lord, on which Mary spread her maternal mantle. Mary, heart of Christianity, bond between God and mankind, lifeblood that flows from the vine and the branches, and unites the branches to the vine by taking the branches that most allowed themselves to be pruned by the vine dresser to be one thing with the vine, because it is only the vine that lives in them. The stone that the builders have rejected has become the cornerstone. Here is Mary, the root of the vine, of He who is stone, foundation of our church. Mary, that crushes the head of the enemy and his followers, that crushes him, smashes him to the ground, plunging him into the deepest of abysses, from which he will be locked up, and from which he will never again be able to harm the children of God. Here is this Mother Church, wanted by the Father, that was born in the humble and pure heart of a maiden, Mary Josephine Norcha, that has loved Jesus as his mother loved him, who embodied more than anyone else the virtues of Mary, an example of holiness, of total abandonment to the Lord, to his will, working ceaselessly, without rest, so that the vineyard could grow always more, and so many branches, inundated by love and the mercy of God, could be pruned and bear fruit in abundance. Dear brothers, let us follow the example of the martyrs and saints of God, the example of our good and tender mother. The time has come to fulfill our call. We cannot waste any more time idling, but we must change the quality of our participation, uniforming our life to the life of He who is, by beginning to cut out of our lives everything that turns us away from the vine, from His teachings and commandments, which slows down the circulus of love and therefore causes the life in us to be dispersed. It is time to put into practice the words of Jesus, described in the Gospel of Matthew, the continuation of the Sermon of the Mount read on Friday. If your right eye is of scandal, pluck it out and cast it from you. It is better for one of your members to perish, rather than for the body to be cast into Gehenna. And if your right hand is occasion of scandal, cut it off and cast it from you. It is better for one of your members to perish than for your whole body to end up in the Gehenna. That is why, beloved young people, that we are all called to make our choice, to give our response to the Lord. Everyone, starting from me, I was the first, like many other brothers who have decided to follow Jesus' teachings, because here we have discovered life. Here we discovered love, and we want to pass this on to all those we meet in our lives, knowing well that we cannot be servant of two masters. Either one is with God or one is against God. And this choice we are required to make now, because there is no more time to wait. No more time to make the Lord wait. We are called to bring to everyone His joy, His love, to give everyone the possibility of salvation, starting from us, trying to eliminate everything that doesn't make us live true life, Christ. Here is the launching of the heart beyond the obstacle, beyond the everyday life, beyond our humanity, cutting the link with everything that still keeps us anchored to this world, that oppresses and weighs us down, and that does not allow us to let the heart fly. It is an action that we must do immediately. Those who have time, don't wait for time. Otherwise, we will not be able to keep up with the Lord, with His dynamism, and we will encounter the risk of no longer bearing fruit, and thus being cut off from life and being thrown out of the vineyard. Therefore, let us entrust ourselves to Mary and consecrate ourselves to her immaculate heart, that with her support and motherly love, we may find strength and courage to redeem our lives, to glorify it in God, to remain in His love, letting us be pruned by the good vine dresser, who has sent us the Comforter, the Holy Spirit, who with His fire, the fire of truth, will cauterize every wound, so that life remains in us forever. So come on, brethren, we must not be afraid to abandon ourselves to the Lord, to do His holy will. For this, as humanly painful as it may seem, what is asked of us, which is to renounce from what comes to us from the world. The joy we will obtain will be full and eternal, because we will be conformed to He who is, and who will always be, keeping in mind the words of Jesus that are spur, strength, and certainty. Every time you accept being born from the pierced side of Christ, you draw near to the glorious Christ. Christ saves you by His suffering and His death. With the help of His grace, you too learn to die, to be resurrected with Him, to lose yourselves in order to find yourselves in Him, to forsake all, to find all in Him. The Lord will then instill in your hearts His law, His spirit of love, because you have made of your life a sharing in His, and He will make you participate in the great mystery of salvation. And so be it.